Hello, here's my next installment on my series about growing through depression. And the topic that I want to touch on today is the fact that it took me a long time to openly admit to not just people that were extremely close to me, but when people would ask questions, that I actually was depressed and had depression. Now, I know the first step is recognizing you have a problem and then really realizing that you want to have solutions. But I want to talk about a trap that is really easy to get stuck in. And that trap is really the idea that once you've come to the conclusion that you have depression, almost kind of using it as a crutch, kind of getting stuck or lost in a poor me state. Like, yeah, I did that, because I have depression. Like it's almost like the used excuse for everything that you go through, and you kind of run into moments where it's just like, well, that can be justified, because my emotions are out of control and it's just they take over me, so it is what it is. One thing that I have to be honest is, as this has been like a perfect review of my life, and as I've gone through this process, I begin to realize that every moment, everything that has occurred to me up until this time, this date, I somehow play a part in it. Not saying that you're supposed to beat yourself up, but sometimes you realize, like, even in certain situations, sometimes it's just necessary to walk away instead of, for example, wanting to be right. Sometimes you just have to walk away and let that situation or that person go. I think the other thing that tends to happen with people is a lot of times they get almost in a defensive mechanism, and it almost becomes an overego where, oh, I'm so great, therefore I do nothing wrong, and you've done all this wrong, and it's almost like they blame everything on something else and think they're this magnificent being, when the reality is you could look at their life and figure out exactly how they've gotten to where they are. I can tell you that, I'm just thinking off top, I have met or come in contact with three different women that kind of, it was almost like the universe was kind of doing that knock and saying, I want you to look at this. And the first time I saw it, I was like, okay, well, she seems nice, Then you started seeing kind of all the little side things that she did and how she presented herself one way, but she was completely another. And even looking at some of her actions, it was obvious she had the world. She had beautiful kids, a husband who was dedicated to her, but everything that she did would imply that she wasn't happy. Another person that I ran into was somebody who was a sweet, really a good person, but I just watched like the nagging sometimes and the complaining, or the I could have fixed this or I could have done this, even though they know nothing about the situation. And I watched as really, I learned to recognize a hermit because I was one. I was a hermit for years. Like I didn't want to go out. I was scared. Like that's one thing that I'll say about depression is depression for me was fear. It was fear of everything. It was fear of succeeding, fear of failure, fear of going out, fear of staying home. It was like this immense fear. And so it's something, because when I sat and I watched this person, I really got a long time to sit and watch this person. I was like, oh, Nick, you better fix yourself, because if you don't fix yourself, that's going to be you in 30 years. With having all of this abundance of potential, but you're so locked in all of these things that you haven't worked through that, it becomes an escape. And the one thing that I can tell you is, when I was first diagnosed, my doctor basically told me that the way depression is almost like a funnel. Like up at the top, things are okay, and as it goes, it kind of gets more rapid and it gets more intense. So if you don't begin to fix it, it gets worse. And it's something to kind of go through the process. And like I said, and realize the growth that's necessary. I do feel like you'll get all kind of nudges to try to push you in the right direction. But if you're not thinking clearly, it's hard. So the one thing that I kind of want to touch on, and I hear so often, especially with Black folks, is they don't want to, for example, go to a therapist. We've been told for generations that we don't break. Mental illness is for white folks. We in our community, that's something that I've heard a lot. I heard so many times of people who would come to me and say stuff like, you're your life's not that bad. Get over it. And the reality is easy to say until you've been in that moment. Like I said, there is no logic in depression. You really have to learn to work through the emotions of it. But I also hear something a lot. I hear people say, oh, well, I fixed myself. Now, you're saying you fixed yourself, but the problems that you had 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago, you still have. So I'm trying to figure out where the fix is at. So one of the things, like I said, I just want to make sure that people are thinking, because I tell people and I can generally kind of sense when somebody's depressed, and I'll make suggestions and they don't really heed the suggestions, but then they'll come back to me. And I mean, I've actually had people come back to me and say, oh, you give such that good energy and this, what's the name? I just want to sit down and talk to you. Well, did you did you look up anything that I told you a week ago? No. Okay, well then you're wasting my time. Honestly, you're wasting my time. If you're not going to put in the work, there's nothing I can do for you. I can't make this work for you. You actually have to take the actions to make it work. And it's something, because I was just reading in The Alchemist today, and I love that book, by the way, where the alchemist was telling the young man that the only way you really learn is by action. I'm going to tell you, depression is very much the same. You're going to have to put these practices into action for yourself. So again, if you find like I said, I find people all the time, oh, I'm depressed, I'm this. Well, have you done, or have you tried, or have you looked? No, but I'm depressed and it's horrible, and I don't want to do this. And I mean, it's even, it's a bad one, but I've even noticed people, like somebody will tell somebody, oh, smile, you're too pretty not to smile. And they like jump and attack and will have this whole dissertation on how they shouldn't have to smile. Really? Are you really getting angry because somebody asked you in a split moment to be happy? Might be a sign that your mentals are a little effed up. I'm just saying. But anyway, I will be back with you soon. I have, like I said, a ton of videos to give you guys information. Once again, find 1,000 reasons to smile, and thanks for watching.